Hello again. This is Will Luden, your host with Revolution 2.0, a revolution of the heart, which is now completing its transition, or beginning to complete its transition, to Take 10 with Will Luden, a title for this channel that is much more representative of our work, which is to work together through information, inspiration, and action items. Talk specifically about how we can improve our own lives and the lives of the community and our nation. And today's title, and for some of you may recognize part of the title, The Candy Bomber Lives, Is It in You? And together, oh, very much together, we are at episode 403. In post-World War II Berlin, Russia engaged in one of its many and continuing attempts to grab land, power, and influence by harming others. The U.S. responded with the heroic and surprisingly successful airlift, the Berlin Airlift, saving Berlin from the vengeful grip of Joseph Stalin. At the same time, then U.S. Army Air Force pilot Gary Halvorsen became famous for being the candy bomber, delighting and encouraging children, the adults, and all of Berlin with what he did by bombing the hungry, deprived children of Berlin with tons of candy. This sequence of events had started with the Allied bombing of Berlin, bombed Berlin, much of Berlin, to rubble during the war, moved to the Soviet post-war aggression, then to the airlift, then to the candy bombing, and eventually to freedom for all the Germans. Each one of these steps played a part, including the candy bombing. Today, each of us in our own way can be a candy bomber and bringing delight and hope to anyone or any group in our lives. What is your way? What could be your way of doing exactly that? Bringing delight and hope to anyone or any group that you know, being your own candy bomber. That is the subject of today's short-term episode. As Russian bombs continue to rain down on Ukraine and Putin's effort to expand his empire, let's remember when another Russian president, Joseph Stalin, tried to freeze and starve out most of divided Berlin in his attempt at expanding his autocratic rule. Perhaps more importantly, let's remember Gary Halvorsen, the justifiably named candy bomber, an Army Air Force pilot who gave joy to the kids of Berlin and hope to adults by parachuting. Yes, parachuting candy in enormous quantities to the children of bombed out World War II Berlin. Children who had little or nothing and were simply hoping to survive. Then Lieutenant Gary Halvorsen made history by being part of the actual Berlin Airlift, also known as Operation Vittles, a seemingly hopeless response to Stalin's, we're going to get this right. Stay with me, folks. Then Lieutenant Gary Halvorsen made history by being part of the heroic Berlin Airlift, aka Operation Vittles, a seemingly hopeless response to Stalin's attempt to steal Berlin from his Allied partners. The Allies, primarily under the U.S. under President Truman, made the decision to fly in everything the citizens of blockaded Berlin needed to survive: coal, food, clothing, medicine, everything. A flight every 30 seconds for 18 months, totaling 300,000 flights in cold, drafty World War II propeller airplanes, forced by the Russians to fly in a very tight air corridor during a record cold winter, flying in 23 million tons of critically needed supplies. The Berlin Airlift succeeded, and Stalin was forced to lift his blockade. And now, if you're enjoying this on YouTube, you'll see a picture. It's kind of two pictures pushed into one. On the left, you'll see Colonel Halvorsen holding up one of the handmade parachutes and a Hershey bar that was attached to the parachute risers, or parachute strings in this case. And then on the other side, you'll see a C-54, which is the primary aircraft of the airlift, and the one that Halvorsen flew a C-54. It's a fairly small four-engine World War II cargo plane. And then the kids underneath the aircraft. Halvorsen noticed a need and found a way to meet it with his Operation Little Vittles. Here's a recent headline and a story showing us that the spirit of the candy bomber lives on once again in response to Soviet aggression. Here's the title of the article. I'm going to do a fair amount of reading directly from the article. Packed plane in beloved candy bomber candy bomber Gary Halvorsen's name sends supplies to Ukraine. And then again, if you're enjoying this on YouTube, you'll see a happy picture of the crew of the aircraft. And of course, there's many hundreds of other people who raised the money, organized it, raised the money, loaded the plane, unloaded the plane, and got the goods to the people. But this is the crew. Thousands of pounds of supplies like diapers, baby wipes, and school supplies, together with candy and handwritten notes, recently landed in Berlin, Germany, and from there went to Ukraine in an effort named Operation Little Vittles 2. Volunteers drew on the example and legacy of Colonel Halvorsen, a U.S. Air Force pilot affectionately known as the Candy Bomber, for his efforts during the Berlin Airlift during World War II. Halvorsen's daughter, Marilyn Sorensen, helped send off the plane from Utah, while people who had been children during the original Berlin candy drops greeted the plane and unloaded supplies at Tempelhof in Germany, bringing it full circle. Tempelhof was the candy bombers, Gary Halvorsen's airfield in Germany, and here they are greeting the plane and unloading supplies in Tempelhof, Germany. Linnea Weller, event director with the Halvorsen Foundation, watched the idea blossom into a huge effort. People hunger and thirst for the goodness in life that comes from doing and serving. Candy and supplies, that might not seem a lot to us, and it may seem trite compared to the needs of the families, but it goes a long way. It shows these families someone is thinking of you. Hang in there. Don't give up. Continuing her quote. This is so key. That was Colonel Halvorsen's legacy. Out of small things, great things happen. That was Colonel Halvorsen's legacy. Out of small things, great things happen. Out of the small things that we do, that we will learn to do, that we're committed to doing, great things will happen. We can all and should do the same in our lives. The Candy Bomber's first encounter with the children came when he noticed a group of them standing behind the wire fence blocking entry to the Tempelhof airfield. And just here's an aside. They were called airfields because they were fields. Many of them were fields. The tarmac and the airports we see today started out as grass fields, ideally one with not lots of bumps and gopher holes. When he approached them, he was disheartened to find that he had only 2 sticks of gum in his pocket. So he took each of the 2 sticks of gum, broke them in half, and gave 4 half sticks of gum to 4 children. And they, in turn, the ones who got the gum, took the wrappers and gave it to their friends who licked and sniffed them to get as much flavor as they could. And here's Halvorsen speaking to us. They came right up to me, speaking in English. Those kids were giving me a lecture, telling me, don't give up on us. If we lose our freedom, we'll never get it back. American-style freedom was their dream. Oh boy. Should be our dream today, too. Ours here in America. Preserving the American-style freedom. And look at the millions of people who are trying to get into our country. They want what we have. Let's recognize what we have and build on it. The Berlin Airlift gave them their freedom, and that was the start of Operation Little Vittles. The goodwill mission that Halvorsen conceived on that spot gave them joy. Operation Vittles was the whimsical name given to the massive airlift itself. It is estimated that Operation Little Vittles was responsible for over 21 tons of candy dropped from over 250,000 homemade parachutes, 250,000 homemade parachutes. What can we do? Berlin does not need our help. Ukraine does, but we're not there. Yet we can take effective action. We can be candy bombers without a pilot's license or 42,000 pounds of candy. All we need to do is change our mindsets. Look to distribute verbal candy instead of verbal bombs. Look to encourage, not criticize. Look to love, not to be right. Some specific examples, just almost random specific examples. You could come up with your own, and I want to hear them in the comments, please. Specific examples include not taking oneself so seriously over issues like masks, regardless of whether we are pro or con. There's simply nothing wimpy or subservient about someone wearing a mask when it's not mandated. Maybe they have a disease or a mild infection and they think they're helping others by wearing a mask. Maybe it's just a personal political statement. So what? It's not that important. And it's not subservient to wear a mask. It's not heroic not to wear one. It's just not wearing a mask or wearing one. So basically, so what? People, strangers, don't let them stay strangers. We're all on this planet in the vastness of space together, making eye contact, asking someone how they are, sincerely asking them how they are and waiting for an answer is candy. Caring about that answer and responding to it is even more candy. Washing the dishes, this is me, I had to learn this one. Washing the dishes without asking for credit is candy. Doing much of anything without asking for credit is candy. Allowing others to take credit, even if you think you had a big hand in it, allowing others to take credit is candy. Loving without making it a trade is candy in a big box. Serving others without expecting anything in return is the whole candy store. And like Gary Halvorsen, we don't have to quit our day jobs because he flew the actual airlift and then he would turn around and fly Operation Little Vittles with the candy bomber. And like Gary Halvorsen, we don't have to quit our day jobs in order to be the candy bombers. Use the comments to give followers of Take 10 with Will Luden your ideas about how we can all be candy bombers. What are your thoughts? Do be specific, because I care. Everybody cares. You are candy to us. And then if you're enjoying this on YouTube, there's another image. It shows a C-54, the principal plane flown in by the candy bomber and during the Berlin Airlift. May 20th and 21st, 22, the recent commemoration of the candy bomber by getting supplies into Ukraine. And it says, create, inspire, challenge. We can all create and inspire, challenge by being our version of the candy bomber. It's an epilogue. Retired Air Force Colonel Halvorsen. And sometimes this is retired Air Force Colonel. Back when he was in it was the Army Air Corps. And then I think in 48 or 49 it became its own division, the Air Force. Retired Air Force Colonel Halvorsen died in February of 22 at the age of 101. His legacy as a good man, father, husband, military leader, and candy bomber lives on. And he can and would want to live on in us. Again, that was Colonel Halvorsen's legacy. Out of small things, great things happen. Out of our small things, we can cause great things to happen. We all have the responsibility to be our own version of a Gary Halvorsen candy bomber. And speaking of personal responsibility, that responsibility does not stand alone. The two core tenets of Take 10 with Will Luden are: one, personal responsibility, take it, teach it, and two, be your brother's keeper. The answer to the age-old question of am I my brother's keeper is a ringing, resounding you betcha. There's no other answer. So where do you stand? What are you going to do? Where do you stand on the issue that we brought up today? all of the other issues swirling about us, Ukraine itself, the economy, stock market. Where do you stand on everything that's important to you? And what are you going to do about those things? Because remember, it doesn't matter where you stand if you're not going to do anything. And you can start by taking effective action today by subscribing, encouraging others to subscribe with you. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, hit that bell, leave us a 5-star review, and share comments with others. We are interested. I'm certainly interested. As always, whatever you do, whatever we do, do it in love. Without love, anything we do is empty. This is Will Luden. Talk to you next time.
You've been listening to Take 10 with Will Luden. If you've enjoyed the stimulating, passionate, and relentless reasoning, we encourage you to get out there and do something. Follow Will Luden and learn more at willluden.com.